Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Ali. I'm a third year BMED concentrating in mechanical design. I might be changing that. I'm not sure yet. And my main interests are in 3D design, biosensors, wearable technology, and like data engineering. And I'm looking into going into industry or getting my master's after undergrad.
Hi, I'm Lily. I'm a third year BMED. My are in women's health, bias within medicine, especially as they relate to rural and urban areas. And after my undergrad, I hope to go to med school to study obstetrics and gynecology. And this presentation is what is BMED, having to do with kind of opening your mind, especially if you're freshman as to what BMED can entail. It can be a little bit overwhelming. And it can also at the same time be a little bit constricting depending on who you hear it from. Cal Poly tends to focus on heart, gestational tract, not gestational tract, gastrointestinal tract. And so this is just kind of showing you all the options and also what our major does within Cal Poly. And to start this off, we're going to define what a medical device is based on the FDA definition. And to summarize, it is any device that is not primarily through the body, does not function primarily through the body metabolizing it or through chemical processes that betters someone's health outcome, well-being, or goes towards the process of bettering someone's health outcomes, such as the microscopes needed to look at bacteria, manufacturing, anything within that process, really.
And then sort of to give you an idea of what the industry for biomedical engineering looks like, we're going to go over a couple different categories of companies and organizations you can work with. And we're going to start with industry titans, which are just really large companies that tend to focus multiple different aspects of biomedical engineering. These companies tend to be focused on really large and widely held problems like heart disease, kidney disease, and they have stuff like surgical devices, dialysis equipment, stuff like that, infectious disease testing. I know Abbott and Cepheid, and probably more of the companies on this list are both, creating coronavirus tests, so that's sort of relevant right now. A lot of these companies are very involved in creating both surgical implants and the tools used for surgery. That's pretty much the biggest, grouping of fields for biomedical engineering. And so these companies that we're listing obviously aren't all the companies in the world. They're just the ones that tend to show up to Cal Poly's career fair and have pretty strong connections with Cal Poly. So they're definitely a good place to start if you're just looking for a bigger company that is sort of focused on what you want to focus in. And then to go over a couple smaller companies to give you an idea of what working for a smaller company might look like. We're going to start with Dooro Devices. This is a company that was started within the past 5 years by a Poly grad. It actually came out of a QL Plus project that was meant to treat freezing of gait, which is a symptom of Parkinson's, where the patient can't move their legs when they're walking. And the way it solves that is by attaching a light to your walking cane that allows you to visualize you stepping over and overcome that freezing of gait. And that's their pretty central product. I don't know if they've branched out yet, but that's like a very nice small company to work for. Carbon 3D is an example of a bigger company that has a smaller biomedical division. A lot of their stuff right now, they're a 3D printing company that works with resin 3D printing as opposed to filament 3D printing. And a lot of their production right now is in stuff like insoles for Adidas, but they do have a smaller biomaterials division that's starting to grow. And then IDEATION Health is sort of a more data engineering focused company that works on using consumer devices like Apple Watch and data from that to sort of give us more information surrounding diseases like Alzheimer's, where information that's continuous and throughout the day is helpful to understanding like this disease.
And then IDEATION Health is a company that was founded in 2010 by a couple of Cal Poly students who had recently graduated, I believe. And their goal was to set out to design a definitive treatment for postpartum hemorrhage. And postpartum hemorrhage is whenever, after the mother has delivered her child, her uterus cannot close off the blood vessels and she can bleed to death. And normally the way this is treated is through applying positive pressure, and essentially with the way you would think about it is like in a balloon. The problem is this is acting against the uterine muscles and can cause problems when you have to remove it, and the uterus still can't contract. So what they decided to do was instead create a vacuum within the uterus, i.e. apply negative pressure, and help the uterus contract. And they just recently got FDA clearance, I believe. And they are set in the Bay Area, and they did do testing for a while in Vietnam or Thailand. But one of the people who worked on the team is Professor Sarah De La Ripa, who teaches BMED 450, and she really likes talking about this project and public health. So if you have questions, ask her. She no longer works for them, but she was part of that process. And then some of you might have heard of Neuralink, another one of Elon Musk's ventures, which its goal is to understand and treat neurological disorders and diseases such as strokes, autism, Parkinson's, anything and everything, and through understanding of specific neural link connections. That's Neuralink. And so far, they have been able to implant it successfully into a pig. Their device is about the size of a quarter, and it can be placed within the skull after removing a section of the skull, and then micrometer size fibers go into the skull without harming any capillaries and read specific neurons. And it can also be removed safely as far as they know. The team is looking for new people to work with. They are recruiting right now. However, they're probably not looking for undergraduates, unfortunately, but someday in the future, they might need someone still. And within Cal Poly, a lot of these entrepreneurship type projects can be started while you're a student even, and you can go to places like Cal Poly Hot House or the Innovation Sandbox. IDEATION Health, the students who started IDEATION Health actually did their extensive research and development and incubated within the Cal Poly Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Fogarty Institute for Innovation. And Sandbox is a really great place for students to get access to printers and other equipment. They are closed at the moment because of COVID, but they might open up in winter depending on regulations. And the FDA, so the government, if you do not decide to go into industry, entrepreneurship, a big corporation, don't forget there's also the government. Or if that's where you want to go, you can go in the government. We have listed some of the main national bodies and agencies. There's of course also state, local, and municipal government that you can go into. Typically, people within this do safety regulations, patent work, environmental research or environmental regulations, and general research that has to do with the human body. NASA, of course, would be looking at the gravitational effects on humans. The FDA does clearance and approval of medical devices and patents. DoD sends people into combat, so hopefully they can bring them back alive. And the EPA would have to do with environment, et cetera, et cetera. And if you are interested, the link that I have placed here and that will be posted onto the website as soon as this presentation goes up is usajobs.gov, and it has the federal government job listings, which if you just aren't sure, you can just take a look at, see what's out there, or you can actually keep an eye out, maybe apply. Other thing, people typically do this, they go into industry and then they do this as kind of their long-term career, but it does not need to go that way. And finally, while you're an undergrad, it's always good to reach out to professors and try to find a project to get onto. Sometimes you do that through MDC, QL+, other clubs, Meditech, and sometimes you get onto professors' research or you just talk to them. They really like to talk about what they're interested in. For example, Dr. Witt does a lot with stents and heart, just generally heart work. And he likes to also talk about bias within health, which is what I talked with him about during the BMED 212 class and how I kind of got into the track that I want to go on now. And Dr. Kristen Cardinal does a lot of work with tissues, and I believe the project she's been working on is to develop blood vessels that can mimic the human veins and arteries without having to use animal alternatives, and to also be able to do clinical trials without the human component, which requires extra regulation, extra work, extra sign-on, etc. It's the documentation. The legal process is quite extensive.
Yeah, just to go over a few other options. Dr. Hawkins, who's actually our advisor too, in faculty in the ED department as well as the BMED department, does work with sort of bioinstrumentation. So if that's what you want to focus in, I would definitely recommend talking to him. He has a couple projects going on right now. And then Dr. Hazelwood works in the Human Motion Biomechanics Lab and does a lot of work with mechanical modeling, sports medicine type things. So he's another great resource if you're looking to go the more mechanical engineering route. Another piece of advice that we want to give is that the BMED department does not everyone at Cal Poly that's interested in BMED. A lot of professors in other departments have research going on that is related to medical devices. So if there's something you're interested in and you're like, oh, like I don't see any faculty members in this department that are interested, I would definitely just look and try to find it in other departments. And then the link we included is the page that the BMED department put up with videos for each professor where they introduce themselves and links to their pages so you can look more into their research interests. And then to go over the BMED concentrations for Cal Poly, the two non-general concentrations are bioinstrumentation and mechanical design. Bioinstrumentation is more focused on electrical engineering, so a lot of your higher level tech electives will be electrical engineering. And this is focused on sort of like evaluating and interpreting signals from the body, something like ECGs, smartwatch, a pacemaker, that all have to evaluate electrical and mechanical signals from the body. And the way that you're going to do this is through modeling using circuits most of the time. Another option is going into imaging, something like radiology. There's a lot that goes into this concentration, so I would definitely look into it if any of these things are of interest to you. Mechanical design is obviously more concentrated in mechanical engineering, and you get a little bit more experience in the sort of manufacturing, quality control side of product development. And that's really helpful if you want to go into something like prosthetics, which is very mechanically based, or like I mentioned earlier, sports medicine, something where you're very focused on mechanical aspects of the body.
And so if you do not choose to go into either of those concentrations and declare, you are by default placed into the general concentration. And the advice that a lot of people give it with regards to this concentration is, even though it is general, you should try to focus it on something. Like show where your interest is, show what you want to learn about and apply in the future. So what some people do is they take a lot of mate classes or chemistry classes for biomaterials, tissue engineering, or maybe you're more focused on the manufacturing engineering, so you focus more on like IME-based courses, or like Professor Sarah Della Ripa did, you look into you substitute business and entrepreneurship or public health courses for some of your support electives. And this can be done, and similarly through other classes, by contacting the engineering department, appropriate departments, and letting them know what you would like to do. Usually they're pretty open to that as long as you show why it's meeting your goals within this major. And of course, there's also data engineering, as Ali mentioned, I believe previously, in what she has done with projects she's done over the summer. And basically what it is it's like your Fitbits, your Apple Watches, whatever's on your phone to keep track of how much you're walking, or where you record temperature and stuff. And within general is the pre-med track, which you should go to the pre-health advising website or contact them. A lot of times they can really start helping you around your second or third year, whenever you start getting towards the application process. It's a pretty person-specific process. Some people like to do it in 4 years, some people do it in 4 1/4, and then take a gap year. So make sure to reach out to them and work out what's best for you.
And then the concentration declaration process is pretty simple. You just go onto their website, and there's like a really short form. It's just like your name and your EMPL ID and the concentration you want to declare. You don't really have to like have any reason for your declaration. And the only sort of advantage of declaring earlier would be that your tech electives specific to that concentration count towards your degree progress. So I would recommend holding off on declaring for now, just so you can figure out what you want to concentrate in. The only deadline to concentrate is before you graduate. So, and then like changing your concentration once you've already declared is a little harder than initially declaring. So that's another reason to hold off on that. And then we wanted to wrap this up by sort of introducing how MDC fits into your career and your exploration of biomedical engineering. Our main way of providing opportunity is through our projects, because they allow you to pursue a topic of interest that might not be covered through another club or through classwork or through a professor's lab. It allows you to be involved in like every step of the process of a sort of product development project. These projects tend to last at least a year, so it gives you a long time to work on it as well. And then you also get access to our IRA funding and any grants that you apply to through the club, which will support you with, which allows you a lot more freedom with what you pursue.
And in general, it's to help you build a community within a project, within just showing up to our general meetings, people that you can ask for advice on how to go about getting a job. It's networking, or looking for help on a classroom assignment with someone who's already taken it or someone who is taking it, and make those connections. And it helps build technical skills, as Ali discussed, in terms of kind of wearing all the hats in a project, because they are pretty small, especially in terms of team size. And
oh yeah, I just want to add to, especially if you're not a biomedical engineering major, coming to the club is nice because you can interact with community that you might not find through classes necessarily, especially if your core classwork isn't necessarily BMED classes, but you still want to apply it to BMED for your career.
And don't forget, our IDEATION meeting is this Saturday, September 26, 2020. It is from 12 to 2 p.m. on Zoom. If you would like to be a project leader of any of our new projects, or a co-leader for EpiPen, or the new leader for the blood pressure and heart monitor project, then we do expect you to show up. If there's a time conflict, please contact us at mdc@calpoly.edu. And thank you for showing up and watching.